Hey guys, Akio Murasaki here. Today is going to be one of those all-time fan reads manga for the first time videos. So I sat down and started reading some of the older manga that I never really got the chance to read. Unfortunately, it's quite a bit on the list, but one of them was surprisingly Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm actually familiar with the anime, as you can see here, poster on the right. I did watch it when I was younger, quite a bit of it actually. I'm not sure I've seen the entire thing, but I did see enough of it to fully understand the story and what it is about. However, I did never read the manga, so I kind of didn't really know where the manga is positioned in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe, so I had a look, or rather, I did read for the first 3 volumes in this kind of like what's in German called Massiv. It's basically like a 3-in-1 omnibus, I guess you could say. So I read these 3 volumes, and yeah, I'm just gonna share my impressions so far with the story and kind of how it differs from the anime, I would also say. So for some of you who don't really know how the manga itself differs from the anime, I collected some comments here from Reddit. The original Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga is the source material of all of Yu-Gi-Oh! It is the Holy Bible. Whether it is the anime, card game, video game, etc., it all starts from this, meaning the original manga, which has 343 chapters. In regards to the original Toy and Duel Monsters adaptations, so basically, I'm guessing here that's meant the anime itself would change so much of the story and characters that are their own stories. That is true. I will kind of mention the details. The manga is the true story, very important. Once you read the story, you will know all of the answers regarding the story of the original series. Very important, since in the anime, kind of a lot of things are really left out. For example, why does Yami Yugi stop using the powers of the puzzle, the one he assembled? The Duel Monsters staff intentionally left this out due to changing up the story. The manga explains why. Also, the story just makes sense and flows better in the manga as it is, as I said, 343 chapters of story, while the Toei and the DM anime are separated stories not connected to each other. So they kind of went into this like very interesting situation that they had the original run, which I think has quite a bit of episodes, actually 240 something, 40, maybe also 43, but has over 200 episodes, so quite a bit. I don't remember how much really of the manga it covers, but it focuses primarily, I'm just gonna say right away, it focuses primarily on the Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duel Monsters card game, much less on what was happening originally in the story, and kind of removes a lot and really just focuses on kind of the core that has to do with the card game. Plus, both anime aired at 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Oh, so scenes got toned down from the mature things that happen in the manga. I wouldn't really say that the manga is like super brutal, super violent. It is probably kind of like 16 plus or something, but it's not crazy violent whatsoever. At least in the first 3 volumes, there's not really anyone dying. I'm just gonna spoil it right away. So people being teleported to places. There is no Shadow Realm yet. Like in the anime, and I am actually familiar with the English version of the manga that they did tone down quite a bit. They added this whole Shadow Realm thing, now to show that one of the characters does actually die. He's eliminated in the story. But yeah, the same person also writes the original manga from the English localization perspective, but did not explain the Japanese perspective. So the original manga in Japanese called Yu-Gi-Oh! That is actually true. I checked this on one of the reader sites, and actually maybe I'm just gonna show you guys straight away. Let me see if I can show it. Can I show it? No, I can't really show it. Anyway, so basically the title is kind of done in a way that there's Yu-Gi-Oh! And there's an asterisk in between. So kind of even finding this with just the text is a little hard sometimes. Overseas, Viz Media split the 343 chapters into 3 parts: Yu-Gi-Oh!, Duelist, and Millennium World. By the way, there are also different series of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, and this person doesn't explain this here, but yeah, there are different series, so it's not just the core 343 chapters, but there's, I think, also the R series or so there's quite a bit of them. They did it with the Dragon Ball series prior to that, okay? You cannot read Duelist without reading Yu-Gi-Oh! Because you're going to be missing context, as this is a continuation story. Also, the manga story leads into Transcendent Game and the Dark Side of Dimensions manga canon sequels, which I call it the Kazuki Takahashi canon, okay? Because he created these specific works himself. No other Yu-Gi-Oh! Work is specifically made by him from start to finish. He may create the concept of the story and his characters to assist, but the anime staff and manga author are in charge of the whole thing as it is their work. So it's kind of even more complicated with some of these spin-off stories afterwards. But going a little bit into the manga, it starts off with a bit of background. What is the Game of Darkness, which Duel Monsters ends up being kind of one of them. At least that's what I understood so far from the manga itself. So basically it introduces that the history of games, that we need to go like 5,000 years ago to ancient Egypt, and that basically that's when it started. And it was basically for people and kings, it was a way to divine the future and also decide on fate. And it was called magic, basically. It was like a magical ritual. And that was basically Yami no Game, which is the Game of Darkness. That's how it was called. And that's basically the core of the manga itself, which kind of has like many aspects. So basically this is one of the first panels. As you can see, the art has aged quite a bit, I have to admit, but not too much so. I would say it's still really good. What kind of puts me off, I would say a little bit, is how young Yugi and his grandpa as well are being drawn. They always look a little crazy, to be honest. But the rest of the characters look fairly normal. I noticed that there are some differences between the different reprints. Like for instance, this is the screenshots I pulled online from one of the reader apps. From actually the one I use for reading Japanese stuff. And this one has a lot more shading, for instance, but in the printed version, which I have, I did not see much of it. So it's like a bit of like the visual dimension is missing here a little bit. Interesting, but yeah. Still has aged a little bit, but not too much. What I didn't really like about the manga is that the majority of it really just focuses in all of these kind of like self-contained stories where either one of Yugi's friends, like Jonouchi for instance, or some of his other schoolmates are getting into some sort of trouble with someone who's trying to trick them. Might be either one of the other schoolmates or like this guy, for instance, from the shoe store. And then Yugi basically transforms into Dark Yugi and tries to gamble. So this kind of reminds me a lot of either the manga Liar Game, or now I'm just trying to remember. Oh, I forgot that one. The gambling game, the Crazy Gambler. Sorry, now I remember. Kakagurui. Yeah, that one. Yeah, so basically a lot of these like kind of standalone self-contained arcs very much resembled like matches in Kakagurui, where the rules of the game are introduced, the individual gambling game, and very, very often they kind of look like this. It's very, very similar. But here, Yami Yugi always comes out on top, Dark Yugi always comes up on top, because he kind of tricks. I mean, it's not a really big spoiler, you figure this out after seeing the first one. He basically tricks the opponent into making some kind of mistake and revealing their greed or hubris, and that's how he beats them. But basically, the majority of the stories within these 3 volumes are kind of about this, which I found very interesting. And only in chapter 9, actually, the card game is finally introduced, but it's only for like 1 chapter, and it's kind of, again, shown as only like one aspect of the Game of Darkness that is like this kind of ancient Egyptian game. And it is basically just like one or two chapters, so chapter 9 and maybe also chapter 10, I don't remember exactly. where it's about Kaiba and his first encounter with Yugi. They have their first Duel Monsters duel, like a serious one. This is actually, sorry, I'm gonna show it later. They have their first duel, and it's basically about Grandpa Yugi's special card, the Blue-Eyed White Dragon, which is like a super rare Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's basically the Kaiba really wants the card because this is the only one he's missing in his massive collection, and they're basically battling for the card, as you can see here in the next set of panels. And this is basically, I would say, kind of the main ways, one of the core ways that the manga differs from the anime, from the first Duel Monsters anime, is that here the way they're being able to duel in Duel Monsters is using Dark Yugi's ability, his Millennium Puzzle's ability, to kind of like create forms, physical forms for the different monsters in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. They're basically dueling together like this. And in the anime it's different. It basically, Kaiba, thanks to his family, has some kind of like simulation device where he challenges Yugi to a duel. I mean, in both cases he does challenge Yugi to a duel. But in the animation, he invites him to his kind of like simulation room where illusions like computer simulations of the various monsters are generated. So it has less to do with Yugi's Millennium Puzzle and more with Kaiba just being awfully rich and having access to all of this. And the other thing is that he doesn't really, and this is the weird part that they did in the anime, that Kaiba really doesn't need the card. I'm not sure why he's obsessed with it, because he apparently has 3 of them. And probably at least 3 of them. I think he might actually have more. I can't remember. He does mention this during the duel in the anime. He does mention how many he has in the deck. But basically, he didn't really need Yugi Grandpa's single card. So I don't really know what the intention here was, why he really needed that card, when he already had 2 more to load into his complete untouchable deck. And yeah, spoiler alert, Yugi manages to beat Kaiba, and it's actually way cooler. Well, I mean, okay, so in the manga, there's kind of like, it's more about the Millennium Puzzle and Kaiba basically failing in his arrogance. And in the animation, again, probably everyone has watched it by now, so I'm just gonna say it. In the animation, what happens basically is that Yugi is able to assemble Exodia because he manages to get 4 pieces, and then he's incredibly lucky to get the 5th piece. He assembles Exodia, and he basically beats Kaiba in like a not really fair duel. But much less using skill and more so just being awfully lucky in the card game. But yeah, but as I said, the anime is mostly about Duel Monsters, and I actually do prefer it a little more because it takes a lot of time, I think, in the manga itself before it starts focusing primarily on Duel Monsters. And I think someone mentioned this, that in like the Reddit comments, someone mentioned that the second series focuses primarily on Duel Monsters. That might be the Duelist series actually. But one first has to read through a lot of chapters where it's kind of mostly about, like, you know, these different shenanigans with different people trying to harm either Yugi or his friends, and him just like having like a monster of the week moment. And for the first couple of them, it's kind of fun, but then it just starts getting really boring, to be honest. So yeah, I don't think I will be continuing the manga. I think instead I would rather just watch the anime again, to be honest. But yeah, but basically that is my experience with with reading Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2025. As I said, all-time fan, reads manga for the first time. That is it from my side though. And I see you guys in the next one. Mata ne!